Hi everybody, I'm Tanya Maddox and welcome to Montrose Matters Live. I am here with Mark Rackay with the Sheriff's Posse and we're going to have some fun. So before we get to Mark, and I assure you today I'm going to be on my best behavior because law enforcement is in the room. So. But Mark and I've been around the block a couple of times doing shows like this, and
we've been in trouble before.
Yeah, I know, darn it.
It always goes downhill.
But today, before we get to Mark, I want to tell you about all the events that are coming up. And just a reminder that this show is brought to you by River Valley Family Health Centers, by the Real Estate Store, Elevate Fiber, and Alpine Bank. We could not do this without our underwriters. So coming up, can you believe July is next week?
Yeah.
That is a tough thing to know.
And summer started only a few days ago. And we've already seen hundreds and record-breaking temperatures, and it's only a few days into summer. So.
And I don't even have to walk around in uniforms like you do. You must be sweltering.
The minute I get home, the shorts and the t-shirt come back, okay?
Now we know the real life of a Sheriff Posse's member. But coming up on July 2nd, Mark, you can't go to this because it's Ladies Friday Afternoon Cocktails. We're going to be at Ted's Steakhouse starting at 3:30, so that is on July 2nd. On July 15th, for all of these professionals who want to network, you can come to Power Players, and that is held at the Bridges. It is the third Thursday of every month. And then the Chamber of Commerce, after 136 years, the Chamber is back, and they're back in action. So on the fourth Thursday of every month, the Chamber of Commerce has business after hours. And this month, or in July, it is going to be at the Black Canyon Boys and Girls Club. So that is on July 29th. Also, with COVID, things just weren't happening at all. So we had to take all of these annual events and push them back to the end of this year.
Know a little bit about that.
You do. So coming up that you want to put on your calendar is Pops in the Park. Oh, the Valley Symphony Association does a free concert here in Montrose at River Bottom Park. And so that is happening in September. The San Juan Healthcare Foundation, their annual concert, they're bringing in a Beach Boys tribute band. So Surf's Up is going to be in town in September. And then Habitat for Humanity is shutting down Main Street, literally. We're having dinner on Main. There are going to be long tables on Main Street itself, and the community is invited to dinner there. And then the Rotary Club of Montrose is celebrating its 100th year here in Montrose, and they have a grand jubilee that is planned for November 6th. So lots of things coming up in the near future, and there are other things that are coming up a little further down the road that you want to get on your calendar. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm going to be good during that break, but we'll be right back, and we'll talk to Mark Rackay with the Sheriff's Posse.
Employees, and we were in a double wide trailer with 4 exam rooms. So that's where we started, behind an elementary school, really focused on taking care of those children. It was a school-based clinic prior to us becoming an FQHC. But very quickly, we realized the community needed a lot more support, a lot more access to healthcare. So in the last 8 years, we've grown to 3 different sites. We have 104 employees now, and we're taking care of about 6,600 unique patients a year.
You're proud to call Colorado home. So are we. Since 1973, we've been giving back to the communities where we live, work, and play across our great state. And we're here to stay. If you're looking for an independent, locally managed community bank where the employees are also the owners, we would like to be your bank. We're Alpine Bank.
Not allowed. Okay, see, I promised I was going to be good, and we get our producer Drew and we get Mark Rackay together, and all sorts of shenanigans start. Yeah. So, Mark, Sheriff's Posse. Oh, that's my goodness.
That's us.
That is you.
That's us, so, yes.
I've been here for 4 years, and when I first met you 4 years ago, you had to explain the Sheriff's Posse to me. And I thought, really, there is such an entity and organization here? How amazing. Tell us about the Sheriff's Posse.
We are an arm of the sheriff's office. We work basically for the sheriff. We do a whole myriad of things that they just don't have the manpower to do. And for the size of this county, we couldn't afford to have the manpower for it.
Right.
You know, every county has to have search and rescue units for when things don't go well. They have to have backups for these, like Mesa County has quite a bit of a search and rescue team. They got an ATV team, they got a water team, they got a rope team, they got separate teams for everything. The thing that makes us different is that we're smaller, we're more organized, and we do all of that. We do all of it just in our group.
Oh, wow.
And you know, because of it, we actually carry badges. We wear badges for the sheriff. So in the public side, we represent the sheriff, which is why we have to behave ourselves. Because if I do something wrong, they'll be calling the sheriff's office and telling.
Sorry,
us.
Sheriff Lillard. I tried.
Sorry, Gene. But we do everything from doing wildfire fighting, search and rescue, crime scene security. Just a few weeks ago, we were up at a plane crash up in Delta. Right. After that, we were looking for a lady at night up here at the Black Canyon that got lost and had insulin problems because she had diabetes. So we never know what we're going to get involved with. And I noticed when we were talking about COVID, everything kind of goes to COVID. I think you're going to see us all start to refer to things as pre-COVID and post-COVID,
Yes.
just like AC and BC and you know AD and BC and that. I think we're going to start referring to things as pre-COVID, and because it's changed a lot of the way we do things, and we did a lot through this entire COVID thing. Our group of men and women from both sides, West End and East End.
Okay.
We have two Posse groups, a West End group and then the East End group, because if something's going on over there at like Bedrock, there's no way we can get there in time to do something. So they have their own group over there. Fantastic people. And it's kind of tough for them because they've got so many miles between everything from Nuclear to Natarita to Bedrock to Red Vale. They cover a big area out there, and they don't have the population there to draw from to find members, so it can be pretty tough. And over here, we've been fortunate that we've got a waiting list now of people that want to be members.
That's amazing. So let me ask you this, Mark. How many members are in the Sheriff's Posse right now?
We've got about 25 to 28 on this side and about a dozen on the West End.
And is that normal, average, or do you normally have more or less than that?
That's about where we need to be.
Okay.
That's about where we need to be. You know, we've got some members that have been members over 40 years.
And how long have you been a member?
It'll be 15 next year for me,
Okay.
here and there. So, but when you think of that, we get a lot of long-term members. They come in, they do it, they have a passion for doing this and helping and being a part of it. And if you have that passion, you have that drive, this is the place to go. But there's a lot of people that come through that they try it, they're there for a year or two, and then they go their own way because it is an incredible commitment.
Well, not only the commitment, but the things that you see can be, it's taxing on you. That not every search and rescue ends with a true rescue.
No, usually it takes you and I a while to get to that part of the bad part of this. You know, I like to think of the happy endings, but
you've always been a better person than I'll ever be. Thanks,
no, that's
Mark.
not true.
I go straight to the point.
Yeah, we do see a lot of bad. A lot of bad. A lot of our searches turn into recoveries. A lot of our missions start out as recoveries. You know, like a fella a couple of years ago had a big old street bike that he was riding on elephant skin up in that elephant skin trail up there. And he missed a turn trying to come out late one night, and he went down a 20-foot embankment, and it killed him. And so we were out there at 1 o'clock in the morning, recovering the gentleman and helping the detectives do what they needed to do. And but some of them are bad, where you only meet someone on their worst day. But you think of the good ones too, like, you know, the lady that had diabetes that got lost, and she was without her medications, and We found her probably a couple hours before it would not have been a good ending.
Oh, wow.
At night. And her husband and her, when we saw them finally get back together after all of that, that was all you needed right there. That was all you needed, was just to see that and say, well, yep, this is what it's all about. And if there wasn't a group like the men and women in the sheriff's posse, then that might have never happened. So,
well, this is an old hat for you, because as a former police officer.
Well, yeah, I was involved. Most of my things that I was involved with in Florida were being on the investigative staff,
Okay.
the investigative side of law enforcement. I worked for a criminal investigation division of a municipality there. And then from there, I got assigned to State's Attorney's Office and U.S. Attorney and whatever the cases are. I didn't do a lot of that patrol thing and that the regular officers go through on a day-to-day. Mostly what I did was detective.
Okay.
And so when we come back out here, this is just natural to me to do this kind of thing. And we did have search and rescue down there in Florida too, a little bit, believe it or not. And we did, most of it was water. Most of it was out on the water there.
But you know, the today you're wearing the sheriff's posse uniform, and anyone who knows Mark Rackay knows that Mark doesn't sit still. He is, whatever uniform he is wearing, he wears it with honor. But you are involved with several different, you know, organizations around here that are about helping others. And can you tell us a little bit else?
Well, not so much anymore. I was with the hospital board of trustees for a long time. I did 8 years there, and we helped do a lot there. We settled that whole business between the county and the hospital when they were having their disputes, and we did manage to put it together there. I retired from that because it just was taking a lot of time compared to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And of course I do, as you know, I do a little bit of writing here, a little bit here and there. You may see my columns on Fridays in the Montrose Daily Press, on Wednesdays in the Delta County Independent, monthly in Valley Health. And then if you travel around Trinidad, Pagosa Springs, Greeley, a lot of little papers that pick me up on that. And I also write for a series of fishing magazines back on the East Coast and mostly through Florida, the Nautical Mile, Mullet Wrapper, and a little bit for Florida Sportsman and sport fishing. I've done some of that in the past too. So that means I have to go there and go fishing occasionally, which drives our guys right here crazy over here. They're already soliciting me to take them on my next trip.
Behind the scenes on Montrose Matters Live, we talk fishing here, okay?
And the bad thing is these guys love to trout fish, and they love our mountains because that's what's great here. In fact, I got a really good friend that just went up and caught a bunch of grayling up on the mesa, which is something that when I was your age we didn't have here in Colorado, and it's here now. So this is a great place to do that. But the sad thing is that they went down there in the Keys and chased tarpon and bonefish around. They probably wouldn't want to do this anymore.
Don't tell them then about tarpon and bonefish.
They couldn't stand the heat and humidity anyway.
Well, yeah. My hair couldn't stand the heat and humidity out there.
Neither did mine. It all fell out.
Yeah. See, I said I was going to be good, and now you're making me laugh, you know. I still have all of mine. Okay, so you remember the Chia Pets from the 90s? You add water, and it goes poof?
I never had one.
Okay,
I was more of a pet rock kind of guy.
Well, guess what? I never needed one because I had a hair that will do that. You add humidity and it's like cha-cha-chia.
You mean like that?
Yeah. So I'm going to say right here in Montrose, Colorado, right? And unless you are on vacation, you're going to stay here too. I know your wife.
Oh, we're not moving. I have no intention of moving. The hurricanes down there will teach you everything you ever wanted to know about preparedness. You know, there's one of the things I write about it a lot is this 72-hour survival kit, bug out bag that people should have. You should be prepared to shelter within. Have a couple weeks, 30 days supply of food and water in your house. You have no idea what that can be like. When Hurricane Andrew, I don't know if some of you probably remember Hurricane Andrew a little bit, when it came through, the power went off. I think Andrew came through on the 21st of August, and the power went off, of course, from that, and it didn't come back on until the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
What?
Yeah, so you're there with no water, no food. There's, like on our street down there were so many downed trees and so many roofs and everything that it was weeks before the bulldozers got there just so you can get out. So and where would you go? There's no grocery store anymore. Yeah. There's a gas station, but there's no power to pump gas. So you can't go to the bank to get money because there's no cash to work the ATM or the lights and that, so everything is closed. Red Cross, in their infinite wisdom, they come down and set up if you can get here, we'll give you meals. Well, they set up at the airport because that was the only place they can get to, and no one had any way of getting to the airport, so they didn't give away a lot of meals other than people that could get there. So you have to have some kind of self-sustaining thing, and that's one of the things that the Posse we're kind of indirectly about.
Okay.
Is preparedness. When you can't imagine how many people go hunting in the morning, they leave, it's a nice sunny day, they're out in their t-shirt and their hunting vest and their rifle, and off they go. And here it comes. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the rainstorm moves in. Well, you know what happens in October, cold front's pushing it, it's now snow. And it's about every other year we have to go up there and find some hunters that are on the verge of dying of exposure.
Oh my goodness.
Because they got caught in something like that. We had one group of guys that they were trying to start a fire so bad, but it's snowing like crazy on them, that the toilet paper they carried around with them, they used that and burned that up, and they burned up his checkbook to try and get a fire started, okay? And they were desperate.
Yes.
And we found them about midnight, and I mean, they were in the shivering stage. They were in bad shape. If they would have just brought a pack with some things to take care of themselves, something to start a fire, a tarp, some extra clothes, something to stay dry, they could have hunkered out the storm, even had a little bit of food and done something, but they didn't. They're in a t-shirt with a vest and didn't even have an extra jacket. So, that's one of the things we preach is preparedness. Just, expect the worst and know that it will be worse than that.
That's a good point. We had a young man on the show a couple of weeks ago, Cameron Yarberry from Ambioc.
Yes.
And Cameron's a hot mess, but
No, that's not nice.
Sorry, Cameron, but it was, but like he spoke about, and at one point I think, I teared up a bit. But he says he carries a first aid kit around his ankle because he wants to be prepared if someone needs him. Because we asked him, what good is this? Why would you have that on? He goes, that's one of the things as I get dressed, I put on. And he told us a story about being prepared. He was at a restaurant and he believes that he was able to help save this woman's life because she was choking, and he leapt into action. And he talks about a road, if he's in a car accident or he sees someone, that he does have something. And that's preparedness on a different level. But in general, what you're saying is if we prepare for the unexpected throughout life, in things like if we're just going on a long hike or walk, or if we're going hunting, or we're taking the kids to the park, then we may be able to stave off something horrible if the unexpected does happen.
Well, part of just like in what Cam carries, part of that is knowing what to do with it when you have it.
So me carrying a gun and not knowing what to do with it won't do any good?
Well,
don't answer that one, Mark.
All right. But carrying a tourniquet, if you've ever tried to put a tourniquet on someone when they are actually having a serious blood flow, it's not as easy as you think. And people say, well, I could use anything for a tourniquet, and they right away point to their belt. Putting on a tourniquet on someone in a moment of terror, a person can bleed to death in as little as 2 minutes. And they can lose consciousness in as fast as 45 seconds. So you better know what you're doing and move fast to stop something. And I guess self-rescue is one of the things that I really push. Everywhere I go, I carry a little pocket tourniquet and an Israeli bandage.
Really?
Yeah, especially when I'm up in the woods, when I'm hunting and that. That's what I carry. I don't carry one of these big Walmart first aid kits with the tweezers and the insect sting stuff and that. I mean, all that stuff, I can take care of the blister. I can take care of that back when I get back to the truck or at camp. But if you fall out of a tree stand and a stick manages to catch you just right and you pop an artery up there, you better be able to rescue yourself. Because more people, probably the number one cause of death out there is heart problems and that. And number two would probably be exposure, where people die because they didn't know it was going to get cold, or they fall into the water, they fall through the ice. But number three is they bleed to death. And, you know, we've had a couple of calls. We had a guy that was gutting out an elk, dressing out an elk, and he was pulling the knife towards him, which any Cub Scout knows you always push the knife away from you, but, you know, it happens. And he stuck it right in his leg and clipped his femoral. And his buddy that was there clamped on it and stopped it by leaning on it, but it took about 40 minutes before anybody could get to him. Now, if his buddy had not been there, I don't think this guy would have survived, because he didn't know what to do for himself.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you know, I'll tell you another side story. Y'all remember Dan Lynch? He was on KUBC.
Yes,
Dan?
yes, Dan.
Yeah, old friend. Okay.
Oh, I love Dan.
I did a lot of shows with Dan for a lot of years. We did that until they stopped doing the talk radio there. And one of them that we were talking about, Dan got to talk, you mentioned it here, the Heimlich maneuver, what Cam did with that lady. Dan said, if you were by yourself and were choking, how could you do the Heimlich to yourself? And so I explained to him about, you know, getting on the edge of a chair and leaning on it to, you know, to drop yourself down on it, or the end of a sofa, something like that, to do that. And he called me about 2 days later and he said, I've got it recorded, you'll have to hear it. He had a fella call in that his wife had passed away about 6 months earlier, and he was eating a sandwich and started to choke. And he remembered what we talked about on the show, and he went and did it on the edge of his sofa and got it out and survived.
That is
And that was just awesome. So Dan and I kind of bounced around about that for, you know, Dan and I considered ourselves lifesavers just from having a little radio show. So if this saves anybody here, okay, here we go. We did something, all right?
And with that, we're going to take a quick break so that I can get some more life-saving maneuvers and we can talk about it. We'll be right back.
At the Real Estate Store, we're a group of real estate professionals who share all forms of property brokering in an innovative way. Our expertise and experience makes us the best choice for buyers and sellers. Our brokers are ready to assist you, either in person or virtually. Come visit us in historic downtown Montrose and experience for yourself the difference of our personal, professional property brokers.
Believe it, just like Gigfoot, zero-lag gaming does exist. The real myth now? Slow internet made you lose. So step up your game with Elevate Internet today.
And we're back in the studios with Mark Rackay. You know, we were talking about Heimlich maneuvers, and I gotta tell you, those cheese balls that I continue to see on the Elevate commercial, I can put so many in my mouth that I may need the Heimlich, you know, done on me.
Keep a chair handy.
Keep a chair. You know, there are those tricks, and they're not tricks, but you know, skills and tips. Where does someone go to learn those? Over the years of being a police officer, you've obviously learned things.
We train in the Posse. We train every month, and then we have special trainings. Like one Saturday a month, we'll go out and do a half-a-day training on GPS training, ATV training, water rescue. I mean, we have to stay on all of them. We recertify and training in our fire skills every year in that. But for an individual that needs to learn these kind of things, Montrose generally isn't the place to do it because there's nowhere to get it. So you're stuck with going online or getting books. But that's where Cameron, who we were just talking about, comes in.
Okay.
And that's what Cameron's doing down there. He's actually putting together survival classes, first aid training, medical training. He's doing a trauma class for trauma medical training. I think he's trying to do something now about water sources and water purifications for somebody. You know, he's the hot mess you refer him to is he's actually spreading himself out into all different directions to help. But as time goes, you'll see that'll be a real good resource for people that want to learn, because I get called all the time from people, where can I go and learn how these survival skills and that? In my column, I generally try and write about something 2 or 3 times a month where somebody may learn something out about how to build a fire. You know, there's a lot to building a fire. And
But are those skills that, so I'm a professional. I work in an office all day long. I don't hunt. I am, gosh, as close as the wilderness I go, there's a field behind my neighborhood that I take the 8-year-old and the dog.
the suburban outback.
Yeah, is that a term?
Yes.
Okay.
Suburban outback.
Yeah, so I'm in the suburban outback, and what skill set should I have? What should the average individual?
Everybody, at a minimum, should have a good, solid first aid and CPR class.
Okay, that's good to know.
Everybody should take that. And, you know, they're only good every 2 years. You know, the certification's only good for 2 years.
Right.
But it's something that you don't practice. So when the crisis hits, when the feces impact the oscillator, so to speak, that's when.
Okay, I've heard lots of terms on Montrose
Well, I'm putting
Matters.
it a nice way.
Yes.
That's when you fall back on your highest level of training.
I see.
And you know, you take these first aid classes, but then if you don't practice it, or you don't think about it, or you don't go any further with it until, oh, it's been 3 years, I guess I better take another one. When something bad happens, you really haven't practiced the skill. You can do skill sets in your home with your husband and your child. Your son should know how to do CPR. Your son should know how to do the Heimlich in case you and him are home alone and you start choking.
Oh, wow.
You should learn how to do it on him.
Okay.
Because by the time 911 gets there, it's too late. It's too late for penicillin. You know.
Should I know how to make a fire? Is that something? Wait, don't look at the production crew.
No, I don't really know how to answer that. If you go out into the woods, yes.
Okay, but if I don't go out in the woods, I don't need to know how to make a fire.
Your husband knows how to make a fire.
Yeah, he does.
And he'll take care of you, okay? Stay close to him. He'll take good care of you out there. Anybody that goes in the woods
Honey, have you been talking to Mark? You know?
Again.
Again, exactly.
Everybody that goes up in the woods should have, you know, you cannot be prepared for an emergency if you have not prepared your mind to accept an emergency and what to do about it if it happens.
Interesting.
To think about it. You have to play that scenario in your head. I'm going to go up that hill and there's a beaver pond up there, I'm going to go up there fishing. What am I going to do if I fall down and break my leg halfway up there? What if it's a compound fracture and I can't split it? What if I'm bleeding? What if I come across somebody else up there? What if Sasquatch jumps up and attacks me? All right, you've got to have some kind of a skill set. Now, I'm not saying you walk around with a semi-truck full of equipment everywhere you go, so you've got it all right there. But you know, I'll tell you a story. I went to Newfoundland. And I went on a moose hunt up there, and one of the guys that was a guide there he lived in Deer Lakes in Newfoundland, and his job was what they called a wilderness nurse.
What?
And we don't have anything like that here. We don't have a wilderness nurse. So I said, I'm game. Tell me what this is about. And it's very similar to what we call a wilderness EMT. You know, a regular EMT has a patient in their care in town for maybe 20 minutes tops, and then they pass it off to the hospital. A wilderness EMT or someone in a wilderness may have a patient in their care for 24 hours. I mean, you've got to get that person to a helicopter or to something else. So they may be, and it's an extended time they may have to take for. In where they're at in Newfoundland and the places that he's at, It may be days because Newfoundland gets 10 foot of snow a year. So he says, we're out here hunting. We may be here for 30 days snowed in and the things that he does. And we were heading out. We were going out hunting together, and I had my pack, and he said, what do you carry in there for emergency gear in your pack? Because we're going hunting for the whole day. We're out, and I told him I got a little small first aid kit, and I got a little bit of food, and I got about 3 different ways to start a fire, and a couple of knives, and my rifle, and a bunch of ammunition. Yeah, I'm in pretty good shape, lots of extra clothes. He doesn't carry any first aid equipment. He carries just a few little basics, but he doesn't carry any of that. And I said, why? And he says, the most important tool in your toolbox is your brain. And if you have the skill set to know what needs to be done, you'll come up with the things to make it happen.
That is
and I
interesting.
thought that's pretty good. And I wrote an article about him and about that. Craig was his name, and I learned a lot from that. So you can never take enough classes, read enough books, study up enough, talk to other people, do what we're doing right here. Do some hands-on things. My grandkids are go to different camps where they learn outdoor skills and that while they're out there. When your husband takes your son out, he's going to hopefully teach him things in that. Even Cameron, who we were talking about over here, the skill sets that Cameron has, you also have to adopt that when you're out a long ways away, you don't take unnecessary chances. If the easy way around is to follow the trail,
Then
that's
take
the
the
safe
safe
way.
way.
And Cameron posted this big video about how they're all wading across this roaring river with these big packs on their backs over there, and they all made it by the skin of their teeth at the end of it. And I kind of poked at him a little bit about that. I guess you can do that when you're your age, but when you get a little bit older and you get a little gray matter in your hair, and you start to think, maybe there might be a better way to do that. And
Well, Mark, I have to tell you, I've learned a lot, and I'm going to promise you that before 2021 is over, I would have taken a CPR class.
Okay.
I'm going to take a tourniquet class, and I will have gotten my concealed carry license. So you check in with me.
there you go.
Mark Rackay and the Sheriff's Posse, just on behalf of Montrose Matters and all of our sponsors, the real estate store, Elevate Fiber, Alpine Bank, and River City Family Health Centers, thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much just for the information and knowledge and for being you.
And it's always great to be here with you. We get in trouble.
We didn't get in too much trouble today, but you never know after the cameras are off. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks again, Mark Rackay.
You bet.